Hello everyone and welcome to CPAC 2023. I'm your host, Amelia Kane, and joining me today is Chairman of the House Committee on Oversight and Accountability, Congressman James Comer. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. As Chairman, what have you discovered thus far concerning the origins of COVID?
Yeah, well, I think one of the first things we did was send out letters asking for 40 government employees to come in to talk for transcribed interviews. These were employees that had never been identified before. We had been looking into this and identified any employee that had anything to do with sending tax dollars to that lab in Wuhan. When we did this kind of rattled Washington, D.C. and the government. And I think you've heard just in the last week, the Department of Energy and the FBI come out and finally say, what we all knew, oh yeah, it probably came from the Wuhan lab. We're not going to stop there. We knew it came from the Wuhan lab. We want to hold people accountable. Everyone talks about we have to hold China accountable, and I'm all for that. But we also need to hold anyone within the government accountable that had anything to do with this and that tried to cover this up, because I believe the government tried to cover this up since day one.
What would be the purpose, though, of our government covering this up?
Well, I think Dr. Fauci knew a whole lot more than what he claimed. You know, in the beginning, he denied that he had any knowledge of gain-of-function research. Then he later admitted that they were doing gain-of-function research, and our tax dollars were going to fund that. Early emails that we uncovered between Dr. Fauci and Dr. Collins showed that Dr. Fauci was concerned about people saying that it was had originated in the lab in Wuhan, and they were trying to spin the narrative that it wasn't. So early on, when we needed to know for sure where it came from, Dr. Fauci was trying to cover it up. I mean, of course it came from the Wuhan lab. And why the government officials at the highest level, and that being Dr. Fauci and Dr. Collins, were actively trying to spin the narrative that it wasn't, is something that we need answers for.
Absolutely, Congressman. Judicial Watch uncovered records showing that the U.S. and the U.K. had a confidentiality agreement tied to vaccine adverse events. Can you expand on this? What does this look like?
This is one of the things that we want to bring people from the government forward and answer. I mean, this government hasn't been transparent. And Democrats will say, well, this happened, you know, at the end of the Trump administration and of course the Biden administration. But at the end of the day, the person that we're zeroing in on is Tony Fauci. Also Dr. Collins. We want to bring in every single person in both administrations that had anything to do with decision making with respect to COVID, because there were a lot of decisions made. Our children they're behind at least 1 year. Government shut down and never reopened. Our federal debt is at record levels because of the craziness of pandemic spending in Congress. So we need answers, but we also need to hold people accountable.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Congressman.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
For more on our work, please visit judicialwatch.org. Thank you.